Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I focus on everything luxury, beauty, and fashion. If you're interested in the latest fashion and beauty trends as well as luxury vlogs, then you are in the right place. Today we're going to talk about the most beautiful eyeshadow palette that has been launched this year, which is the Dior Summer Collection. Just take a look at the gorgeous palette over here, my friends. I think I've never seen anything as beautiful as this. So as usual, we're going to talk about the price points of those two eyeshadow palettes, and then I'm going to do some swatch comparisons so that you can understand the color story and the formula of the two palettes, because those two palettes are so beautiful. So we're going to talk about the packaging as well as the special embossing on the actual palette. At the end of this video, I'm also going to show you how I achieved today's look with those two eyeshadow palettes. And as a spoiler alert, I used the Coral palette on the left hand side of my face, and then I used the Pinky palette on the right hand side of my face. So without any further ado, let's get into today's video. And if you're new to my channel, hello and welcome. On this channel, we do a lot of vlogs as well as beauty reviews. So if that's something that you're into, please make sure that you hit the subscribe button to join the fam. As a heads up, I do have a lot of interesting reviews that are coming up, such as this newly launched YSL lip oil, which I just got last week in the mail. And it also came in with this beautiful heart-shaped clutch, which I love very much. There's also a cute little mirror that comes with the clutch as well. So I'm going to do a full review on the gift as well as the lip oils that I got. So please make sure that you follow this channel if you don't want to miss out. First of all, let's talk about this new collection and all the products that's going to be launched. I'm very lucky the fact that they launched those two palettes already into the Canadian market. These two eyeshadow palettes currently retail for 95 Canadian dollars, which is slightly higher than the permanent collection, which retails for $88. And these palettes are also available in the European market, currently retailing for 78 euros compared to 75 euros of the permanent collection. And because those two palettes are not available in the US, I don't have the US listing price. Based on the pricing information that's available in Canada and the EU, I'm guessing these two new palettes will be retailing at the same price as the previously released limited edition collection, which is at 71 US dollars versus the permanent collection, which is 68 US dollars. Based on information from online, it looks like these two eyeshadows are from the Dior Summer Collection, which not only include these two new eyeshadows, but also 3 new shades of the lip maximizers, as well as 2 new nail polish colors. I believe there's also 1 new lip stain colors that's quite interesting. It's more like a salmon sort of pink color, which I think will be very complementary to those 2 new palettes. Now, many of you may recall that Dior just launched a spring collection that's called Glowmania. I also did a thorough review on that collection, which I'm going to link down below in case you're interested. I have to say that collection is very beautiful as well, but it's very different than the summer collection. So the Glowmania collection has more of a light pastel type of look. So you've got the pale blue, you've got the mint green, and even the deepest shades in those palettes are quite light compared to what we're going to review today, which is the summer collection. I would say I was a little bit surprised that the color that they picked for this year's summer collection are so deep compared to what they launched last year, which were more consistent with, you know, the spring summer type of light pink, light coral type of look. So I do like how they took the risk this year to introduce something that's different and something that will really wow the consumers. Let's move on to the packaging. So these two eyeshadow palettes came in with very standard paper packaging that's typical of Dior eyeshadow palettes. But I will say that the embossing is very, very special. It is probably the most beautiful embossing that I've ever seen that's coming out of Dior. From time to time, they will release limited edition collections with special embossing, such as the holiday collection as well as the Glowmania collection, which I did a review on that I will link down below. But I want to point out the difference in the embossing. So for example, the Glowmania collection, the embossing is basically Dior logo all over the palette in a very uniform fashion. Same as the holiday collection embossing, which is slightly better than the Glowmania in a way that the design is not a very uniform logo. And this palette is taking the embossing to the next level, because if you pay close attention to the design on the palette, the embossing in each quad is very different. And then the tiger kind of goes from this lighter brown shade to the deeper brown shade. So each individual quad in this eyeshadow palette has a different design, and altogether the palette is almost like a piece of art. It's almost like a painting where you can see this tiger is coming out of the woods and there's branches here that's connected to this color over there. Now, I would also say that the embossing of the previous collections tend to be just a print that was pressed onto the products, whereas the embossing of this new palette is not only kind of printed onto the palette, but also it has a gold finish, which means if you mix the underlying color with the embossing, you're going to achieve a very different effect and very different look. So I think the effort that went into the design of this palette is definitely much higher than all the previous limited edition palettes that I have seen that was launched by Dior. So from a packaging perspective, I would say this is 100 out of 10. I absolutely love it. I'm so obsessed. I would just buy those two palettes because of the design and the embossing, because they are definitely a collector's dream. Now, in terms of color stories, these two palettes are actually quite different. If you follow Dior closely, you know that every summer they tend to release two eyeshadow palettes. One of them will be leaning more pinky and the other one will be leaning more corally. And the same is true this year, where you've got a pink palette versus a coral palette. Although I will say that this palette definitely stand out from a color story perspective as well. Normally when you see pink palettes coming out of Dior, you would just see kind of different shades of pink. There's nothing that's kind of controversial, nothing that's kind of out of the ordinary. But I would say Dior did take some risks in this palette, where you do have a very standout fuchsia pink color in the middle, but then you have this very beautiful deep brown color, which I think is a little bit interesting. Same as this light brown color. These are just not the colors that I would typically associate with a pink palette. But I have to say that all the colors look so beautiful on the eye, as you can see over here. I'm absolutely obsessed with this palette. I think I really enjoy the look. In addition to the color story, which I think is very unique and interesting, the formula of the two palettes are also quite diverse. So you've got a standout shade in the middle in both palettes. Both colors have a little bit of a satin finish, so they are very good colors for the center of the lid, which gives you that pop of color. At the same time, it introduces a little bit of shine to the center of the lid. And you've got two deep shades in both palettes. This one is more like a deep brown, and this one is more like a burgundy brown. So those two colors are matte colors, which are very handy if you want to create a look with a little bit more depth, which is what I did. So I used those two colors in the outer V over here, which I absolutely loved. And these two colors are so blendable and pigmented. I really, really enjoyed using them. And then the rest of the shades in those two palettes are more shimmery shades, and they're absolutely beautiful and pigmented. So I definitely really enjoy the formula of both palettes as well. Now let's talk about the makeup look that I've done today. So as mentioned earlier, I applied both eyeshadows on my face to help you compare the finishes and the makeup look that you can create with both palettes. I used this coral palette on this side of my face and I used the pink palette on this side of my face. So for both palettes, I started with the deepest shade, which is this brown color in the outer V to add more definition to my eyes. If you guys follow me, you know that this is usually how I start with a eye look. I like to go from the deepest color to the lightest color and then add some satin shades in the middle as a highlight. And on the other side of my face, I did the same thing with the darkest pinky kind of burgundy brown shade to define the outer V. And then after that, I move on to the second darkest shade to blend out the outer V that I just created. And normally I would use a matte shade for this purpose because I think matte colors blend a little bit better than glitters that would just go everywhere. But for some reason, these two shimmery shades did a really good job blending out the matte shade that I applied earlier. So I'm quite pleased with that. And I have to say, I'm absolutely obsessed with this pink kind of deep pink shimmery shade. It's so beautiful. It has a little bit of a gold shift. So it's such a nice addition to this palette, I would say. It really makes the whole look very sophisticated. And you can really see as I move my face how, you know, the color would change slightly as the light bounces off the products. And then after that, I went in with the center shades to add some color into the center of my lid. And normally I'm not really a coral makeup type of girl, but I have to say I was really pleasantly surprised by this coral color. So if you just look at the pen, you would think that this color is it's a very standard corally red color, but when I apply it on the lid, I would say it has a little bit of a pink shift, which makes it very unique and sophisticated. So I am very obsessed with this color. I would say that's probably my favorite color out of this entire palette. And on the other side, I used the fuchsia pink color in the center of my eyes. I am really into pink palettes, so I was not surprised that I really enjoyed this color. And normally I would just add a pop of color, you know, as a highlight and be done with the look. But I do want to show you guys the performance of all the colors in this palette, which is why I went in with this orangey brown color on the kind of the outer side of my lid to add a little bit of shine as well as dimension. And I do enjoy how that turned out. I did the same thing on this side of the face. So I used this pinky brown shade on the outer side of my lid as well. I do like how it looks on the lid. And to finish the look, I used the lightest shade of the palette, which is this light beige shade, to highlight the inner corner. And I did the same thing on this side. I used this pinky beige color in the inner corner of my face, and I absolutely love how the eye look have turned out. And if I have to pick one between the two inner corner shades, I do think I might pick this one because it gives you a little bit more of that brightening effect compared to this palette. So for the blush today, I used the YSL Make Me Blush collection, which I did a review on earlier this year. I will link it down below in case you're interested. And to finish today's look, I actually use the newly launched YSL lip oil on my lips. I absolutely love the color, and it has a little bit of a tingling effect to it, which I don't personally enjoy, but I do like the finish of the product. I'm going to do a full review on this product soon, so please make sure that you follow my channel so that you don't miss out. Now let's talk about my final thoughts. I would say I'm so happy that I got both palettes. Initially, when I went into the store and picked up the pink eyeshadow palette on the first day, but after testing out the colors in this pink palette, I decided to go back the next day and pick up this coral palette as well, just because how beautiful they are. And I have to say that because the embossing is one of the highlights of this palette, I am quite careful when I'm using this palette. I try to go around the embossing to make sure that I can keep them for as long as possible, because I really do not want to ruin them. They really look like a piece of art to me. And in addition to the amazing embossing of those two palettes, I have to say I was really blown away by the performance of the products as well. Like I said, I'm usually not a coral makeup type of person, but I really enjoy this center shade, which is not really a corally red color that you would typically expect. This color has a little bit of a pink shift, which I personally really enjoyed. Overall, I do think I still prefer the pink palette. I just feel like it matches my personal preference a little bit better, but I have to say from a formula and performance perspective, those two palettes are both 10 out of 10 in my opinion. And on top of that, they are priced at the same price point compared to the previously launched limited edition collections. And the embossing is just out of this world. So I would definitely recommend you to pick it up. And that's all for today, my friends. I hope that this review is helpful. And again, if you have any questions, please feel free to leave a comment down below and I will try my best to answer your questions. As mentioned, I have a lot of interesting content coming up. For example, I'm still editing a few vlogs that I've done in New York City from my recent trip, and I'm also going to review some very exciting new launches from Yves Saint Laurent, such as this beautiful lip oil that I used today. So please make sure that you hit the subscribe button so that you don't miss out. I really appreciate your support in terms of helping me to grow this community full of fashion and beauty lovers, and I will see you in my next video.